Harry has been utterly humiliated today, and he deserves it.
And what brings us together is far more important than what sets us apart.
That Harry is not all there mentally. He's not right in the head.
Prince Harry walked through London with a smile on his face, but behind that smile, his UK comeback was already falling apart in front of everyone.
Even by Harry and Meghan standards, this is a disaster. This is an utter disaster.
This was meant to be Harry's serious return. No explosive memoir, no Netflix drama, no new accusations aimed at the royal family. This time, he arrived to focus on Invictus, veterans, recovery, and carefully prepared speeches that were supposed to rebuild his image as an international statesman. Then everything started falling apart at once.
Well, the gigantic ego has landed. Prince Harry's officially back in the UK for a much vaunted visit, which has now inevitably become another soap opera.
Harry arrived at Chatham House for his first official London appearance of the trip, smiled for the cameras, made a light joke, and appeared completely at ease. But just moments before, one of the biggest court battles of his life had ended with a major defeat. Buckingham Palace and the Sussex camp were already clashing through media reports. His accommodation plans had fallen into confusion. Reports claimed his father's patience was wearing thin. William was nearby but kept his distance. And Meghan, the person Harry usually presents as his closest supporter, was nowhere by his side.
Don't just have egg on their face now, Brittany. They have a whole omelette.
So what exactly was Harry smiling about? The High Court dismissed the privacy case brought by Harry and 6 other claimants against Associated Newspapers, the publisher of the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday. The judge ruled they had not proven that the disputed information had been obtained unlawfully. Harry did not quietly accept the decision. In a joint statement, he called the judgment a complete and obvious whitewash.
Prince Harry has lost his £50 million case against the Daily Mail, but today, as he arrives for a speech at Chatham House, the moment this devastating verdict is announced, I can tell you, he has also lost his reputation.
But no angry statement could change the outcome. Harry lost. Reuters described the ruling as the effective end of Harry's long-running battle with the British press and said that battle had ended in defeat. For years, Harry presented these court fights as a personal mission. He argued he was not only protecting himself, he said he was challenging the system. He wanted accountability. He wanted powerful newspaper figures exposed. He wanted to walk away as the prince who finally defeated the machine. Instead, he arrived at an Invictus event carrying yet another damaging headline. And the timing could hardly have been worse.
This case, this verdict was make or break for the Duke of Delusion, and it is over. It's worth pointing out he's also dragged 7 other claimants down with him.
Harry did not receive this ruling while quietly staying in California. It happened in London, during a visit that was already turning into a nightmare. First came the security dispute, then the confusion surrounding Buckingham Palace. After that came growing questions about whether King Charles would even meet him. Then Meghan and the children were absent from the expected family return. Now this courtroom defeat landed right on top of everything else.
The other issue is what it means for him and Meghan, because she's not going to be happy that he's picked this fight with the Daily Mail and once again lost. And she's going to suffer because the two of them are now even more broke.
One bad headline quickly became 2. 2 turned into 5. And Harry's carefully planned comeback suddenly looked more like a very public collapse. Even so, he still walked onto the stage. He spoke about the Invictus movement, different nations, recovery, and the responsibility to support wounded service members.
Supported Invictus Games, which is a brilliant concept, which is to show wounded people that they are not victims. What has he done to himself? He's turned himself into the biggest victim of all time.
He tried to keep the spotlight on the cause, but very few people were talking about the speech itself. Reporters were studying his face instead. Was he angry? Was he crushed? Had he already read the judgment? Was that smile genuine? Or was Harry simply trying his hardest to pretend nothing had gone wrong? That should be a huge warning for Harry's team, because this trip was supposed to rebuild his image.
He is morally bankrupt. He relied on phone hackers. He relied on criminals. And he has been exposed for the man he is, a man who will lie about the royal family, about the British press, and a man who I do not believe has any place anymore in this country.
For months, Harry has been trying to move beyond constant royal drama. He has spoken about Ukraine. He has promoted Invictus. He has focused on serious public issues in speeches and interviews. His goal has been to look experienced, respected, and influential, not simply as Meghan Markle's husband or the prince, still locked in conflict with his family. Yet somehow, every path leads straight back to the same controversy.
Buckingham Palace, this is where Prince Harry's staying. Oh wait, just kidding, not where Prince Harry's staying.
Isn't this a complete circus?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this show, but I'm going to anyway. It's been a complete show this whole day.
Harry arrives to talk about veterans, and the headlines focus on Buckingham Palace. He delivers a serious speech, and everyone talks about his court loss. He says he wants reconciliation, and reporters immediately ask whether King Charles has turned him away. He even arrives without Meghan, yet Meghan still becomes one of the biggest stories of the entire visit. In fact, Harry himself brought her into the courtroom battle.
So Harry then randomly, it's regarding 15 years ago in these articles that no one cares about. But that's because Harry, of course, is a member of the perpetually offended. He needs the victim narrative because that's all he's got. That's his shtick. That's his grift. But he brings up Meghan in a court case about articles that were 15 years ago before he met Meghan. And it was very, very strange. He talked about, he said, the press have made my wife's life an absolute misery.
During the case, Harry said the press had made Meghan's life an absolute misery. His frustration over the treatment of his wife is nothing new. But many of the disputed newspaper stories dated back to years before Harry had even met Meghan. That made her role in his evidence stand out even more.
Bringing up Meghan, I don't know, in order to make her proud or something. I think he's scared of Meghan. I think Harry's afraid of Meghan and he thinks he's got to be nice to her even when she's not there.
So why did a legal battle rooted in Harry's life before Meghan once again become a story about Meghan? Harry may genuinely believe the two are connected, that the treatment he received as a young royal eventually became the same treatment directed at his wife. But many critics saw it differently.
On many occasions in the past is that a lot of the things he says don't seem to come from his head. They seem to be put into his head by his wife. Meghan speak, you can often tell that when he's making public statements.
Meghan was not in London, yet Harry still placed her at the emotional center of the case. She was absent from the courtroom, yet her name became part of the legal battle, the security dispute, the palace tensions, and nearly every discussion about Harry's next move. And that brings us to perhaps the strongest image from this entire visit. Harry was completely alone. He arrived alone. He faced the court ruling alone. He attended official events alone. He dealt with competing palace briefings alone. He tried to keep the focus on Invictus alone.
His wife, Meghan, absolutely hated the Mail. Now, poor boy, he has to do everything that Meghan wants for him. He tries his best, but this is ridiculous, and he's going to owe the court £50 million.
The couple who built so much of their public image around standing together suddenly looked more divided than ever at the exact moment Harry seemed to need Meghan the most. So where was she? The official explanation remains security. Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet did not travel to London because Harry was unhappy with the level of protection available outside a royal residence.
She, of course, Madam Nightmare, she's not coming to London because it's not safe, but it's safe to go to either Birmingham for the Invictus launch or to go to Northamptonshire to see Diana's grave. So who made that decision, that if they're going to be allegedly under pressure or attacked or whatever, who says that they're not? It's ridiculous.
That may well be the real reason. Meghan could still join him later somewhere else in Britain if different arrangements are made. But cameras do not capture explanations. They capture who is standing beside you, and Meghan was not there. For Harry's critics, that image was especially damaging. Meghan remained in California while Harry walked into a courtroom defeat, a palace dispute, and another difficult chapter with his family.
Any hopes of reconciliation between the two men are now dead in the water.
The man who has so often spoken about protecting his wife suddenly appeared to have no one standing beside him at all. And the story just keeps changing. At first, Meghan and the children were expected to return. Then, reports said they would not be coming to London. Later, new claims suggested they could still join Harry somewhere else in Britain. After that, came speculation about Birmingham. Then Althorp entered the conversation. Then people started asking whether the children might finally see King Charles. Every new report creates another wave of headlines, even though very little has actually been confirmed.
He's been using those kids as emotional blackmail, trying to get Charles to stick his nose in and change that decision just so he can get to see his grandchildren.
So is this simply a family trying to work through a difficult security situation? Or has all the uncertainty become a story of its own? Meghan is coming becomes one headline. Meghan is not coming becomes the next. Meghan may arrive secretly, creates another round of speculation. The children might travel. The children might stay home. Harry might meet Charles. The king might decline. The Sussexes do not even have to appear together for the story to completely dominate the news. And if Meghan suddenly arrives now, the entire narrative changes overnight.
On the front page of the biggest selling newspaper in the UK, and that's what it's all about. The way that it's been handled is purely about making sure that everything he does and says, and it's all part of the brand, keeps them current. Will they, won't they be part of Buckingham Palace, be at Buckingham Palace? I feel sorry for the king with this because he's been played, I think.
Harry is no longer seen as the prince standing on his own. Meghan becomes the supportive wife arriving after his toughest day. The children become the emotional link to King Charles. Birmingham turns into a Sussex family story. What was supposed to be a private visit suddenly becomes an international media event. That is exactly why Buckingham Palace is being so careful. A photograph with King Charles could become the single most valuable image Harry takes home this week. After the court defeat and all the confusion over where he would stay, one picture could completely shift the public conversation. Harry would no longer appear isolated. Instead, he would look welcomed back. The Sussexes could point to it as a sign of forgiveness, reconciliation, and evidence that their royal ties are still alive. And Meghan could benefit from that moment as well.
He basically held the King, Charles, his father, to yet more PR ransom. He plays this drama out in the court of social media, public opinion, leaks to People magazine and so on. And he just constantly causes problems for Charles. And so by the time he eventually says yes, it's too late. He probably knew that. He's just doing it to get public opinion.
Her business projects, fashion partnerships, lifestyle brand, and media appearances all attract attention. But nothing captures worldwide interest quite like the royal family. A product launch, a dress, or a new brand can dominate headlines for a day. A photograph linking Meghan's family with the king could remain in the spotlight for weeks. Palace officials understand that. They also know that even a private meeting can quickly become part of a much bigger Sussex narrative.
The only reason they want that is because of relevance, isn't it? Because the brand's on its backside in America, and being seen in a royal residence with the old Netflix cameras looks good. What else?
That does not mean Harry should be prevented from seeing his father. It simply means the palace may want any meeting to stay private, carefully managed, and impossible to turn into promotional material. Then came another Buckingham Palace headache. One side claimed Harry had accepted an invitation to stay at the palace.
Harry, for whatever reason, either didn't receive the message or read the message. Now, the palace sources insist that he was absolutely told categorically on Saturday evening that he would not be allowed to stay in Buckingham Palace. And then, of course, we've got into this really awful situation where we're being briefed and counter-briefed from both sides, and Harry's camp are hurling allegations against Buckingham Palace as to the reasons why he suddenly isn't allowed to stay in Buckingham Palace, alleging that they were trying to cause as much embarrassment to Prince Harry.
Buckingham Palace said he first declined the offer, later changed his mind, and by then, it was no longer possible because staffing and security plans had already been finalized. Harry's representatives expressed disappointment. Palace sources insisted he had been clearly informed. Within just a few hours, the visit turned into a full-scale briefing war. The Sussex camp appeared to suggest the accommodation offer had effectively slipped away. The palace wanted the public to believe Harry had created the problem himself. Two sides, two timelines.
There are lots of bedrooms that King Charles could
So why doesn't he just say yes?
There are lots of bedrooms. He did say yes.
Immediately.
He originally said no. He originally said no, then he came back and said yes, and
let me answer. The offer was put on the table. It didn't have to be withdrawn. I think that says a lot, really, about the institution. You're offering your child somewhere to come and stay. Why would you need to then withdraw that offer?
Maybe because your child has
You could have left that
Maybe because your
offer-
child has been behaving like a child.
Two completely different versions of exactly the same invitation. Reports then claimed the king's patience had finally run out. Sources said Charles still wanted to be a caring father and grandfather, but he was no longer willing to accept constant uncertainty or be pressured into last-minute decisions. The message coming from the palace side was clear. Charles tried to help. Harry waited. Harry changed his mind. Harry created the confusion. So was the king genuinely losing patience? Or were palace aides making it clear that Charles would no longer allow himself to appear weak?
If my dad, who was not ill, was ill, I wouldn't... Why announce it in the papers? Why not just go and see him? This whole debacle is for publicity. And here's something Kinsey Schofield has been saying for months. 2 words. Thomas Markle. If it's about your grandchildren seeing their grandparents, you've left a man in a hospital and you haven't had words with him for however many years.
Either way, the outcome looked the same. Harry no longer had a royal place to stay, and the chances of a relaxed meeting with his father suddenly seemed much slimmer. Harry's supporters argue that Buckingham Palace has hundreds of rooms and could easily have found space for him. They also point out that concerns about his family's security were the main reason the accommodation mattered. But this was never as simple as booking a hotel room. Royal staff, security teams, schedules, and access all had to be coordinated. Reports suggested Harry had been considering the offer for weeks.
This is the same Harry who's picking a fight with his father about whether or not King Charles offered him a room at Buckingham Palace, with the palace saying that we offered a room but they didn't reply. And the Sussexes saying we did reply and we said yes. Complete hot mess, and now we don't know where Harry is staying in London. Most likely a 2-star hotel, because Harry can't afford Claridge's or the Ritz now, or the Dorchester, because he's going to have to find upwards of $10 million.
Waiting until the last minute only made the situation even more complicated. And once again, Meghan's name was pulled into the debate. Some commentators argued Harry felt even more determined because Meghan has long been critical of parts of the British press. Others have repeatedly suggested she has influence over his decisions and encourages him not to back down. There is no evidence that Meghan directed Harry to continue this legal case, and other reports have even claimed she was hesitant about it. But for Meghan's critics, that changes very little. They believe Harry keeps fighting battles while carrying frustrations they associate with Meghan even when she is thousands of miles away.
Feeding her ego, talking about her in the High Court when she's not even relevant. And as regards that he craves privacy for Meghan, well, she's an ex-TV actress. She's got an Instagram account with millions of followers. She posts every 10 seconds. She had a TV series called With Love, Meghan. He's had a book out called Spare. They did a documentary about their lives. They did an interview with Oprah Winfrey. So what does Meghan know about privacy? And then even the kids, they're on Instagram the whole time, which is my understanding Harry's not happy about.
That perception matters because Harry and Meghan now seem to be building 2 very different public identities. Harry wants Invictus, veterans, international conferences, Ukraine, security, serious speeches. He wants to be seen as a respected global figure focused on causes much bigger than royal gossip. Meanwhile, Meghan is building a lifestyle and business-focused profile. She has promoted products, expanded commercial projects, and used a fashion storefront that lets followers find clothing connected to her public appearances. Fashion coverage often compares her style with Princess Diana, and reports have even speculated about projects inspired by Diana's famous off-duty fashion. Harry is trying to build the image of a statesman. Meghan is building the image of a lifestyle entrepreneur.
Why are you denying him the opportunity to earn money? I would have thought that you would want to applaud the fact that he is doing what he needs to do to feed his family.
Well, because quite simply, the way that Harry earns his money is by trashing the royal family and trashing Britain and encouraging his wife to. So I don't actually have any sympathy for his way of earning money. Why doesn't he just earn money without damaging Britain, which he has done dramatically and wholly?
But both public identities still depend on the same royal connection. Harry's influence comes from being the king's son. Meghan's global attention still grows whenever Princess Diana, Buckingham Palace, or the Sussex title becomes part of the conversation. They may be moving in different professional directions, but the royal connection still sits at the center of both public brands. Then there was William. While Harry was speaking at Chatham House, Prince William was attending another engagement just about 12 miles away at the London Welsh School. 12 miles. In a city the size of London, that is almost nothing. Yet there was no meeting, no announced phone call, no private reunion, and no sign that William had any intention of closing that short distance.
So we're done, Harry. The door is slammed shut. Indeed, I'd be happy if you never came back to this country again.
Physically, the brothers were close. Emotionally, they appeared further apart than ever. Harry says family is important. William was nearby. Harry says he wants reconciliation. William stayed away. After years of interviews, accusations, and personal details published in Spare, those 12 miles may as well have been 12,000. William also remains one of the biggest obstacles to any return to royal duties. Charles may still want a relationship with his younger son. He may still hope to spend time with Archie and Lilibet. But there has been no indication that William supports bringing Harry back into any kind of half-in, half-out royal role. That chapter appeared to close years ago, and nothing about this difficult week suggests it is about to change. Even so, the palace has not completely closed the door on Meghan and the children.
Despite all of this, the invitation in the future is still open for Meghan, the two children, and Harry to stay in a royal residence. They're rising above it all.
I mean, that
still.
shows grace, doesn't it? That's the door still, after all of this, still being left ajar.
Right, because Harry's team responded kind of annoyed, saying that they were disappointed that this offer had been rescinded, which can we look up the definition of that? You said no. You know, the door was closed then.
According to reports, a palace source said the invitation for Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet to stay at a royal residence during a future visit is still available. That is an important detail. Harry may have missed the opportunity this time, but the family has not reportedly been permanently shut out. Charles may be frustrated with his son, yet reports continue to suggest he has not given up hope of seeing his grandchildren. Reports have also claimed the children had already been told about the trip and were excited about visiting Britain. That information comes from unnamed sources and has not been independently confirmed. But if accurate, it creates another emotional challenge. Harry would not only be dealing with tensions involving the palace, he could also be facing the disappointment of Archie and Lilibet after months of excitement surrounding the visit.
Harry might bring the kids because they've been so excited about coming to the UK, which positions him as father of the year, taking care of his brood, while his dad doesn't take care of him.
And this is where the entire plan started falling apart. Harry tried to fit everything into one single week. Invictus, Well Child, a major public relaunch, a possible reunion with Charles, the possibility of Meghan joining later, a possible visit from the children, royal accommodation, security negotiations, and one of the biggest court rulings of his life. Any one of those stories could have dominated the entire visit. Harry brought all of them together and still hoped the charities would remain the main focus. They never really had a chance. Invictus should have led the headlines as Birmingham prepares for the 2027 games. Well Child should have benefited from Harry's appearance.
Well, hey, I'll tell you who else. Let me tell you who else is seething right now, Kevin. The Invictus leadership. This trip was supposed to be about the veterans. This trip was supposed to be a kickoff to the 1 year in Birmingham for the Invictus Games.
Veterans, children, recovery, and fundraising should have been the biggest talking points. Instead, the headlines became Harry, 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 Meghan, Meghan, Meghan. Where was he staying? Was she coming? Were the children arriving? Was Charles upset? Was William refusing to meet him? Did the palace pull the accommodation? Would Harry respond to the court defeat? Would Meghan suddenly appear and change the entire story? The charities were completely overshadowed by the ongoing Sussex drama. That is not a small problem. Harry's name attracts cameras, but those cameras do little for a charity when every question is about his family instead of the cause. Donors want confidence. Organizations need a clear message. Veterans deserve attention that is not buried beneath yet another palace dispute.
You go down the pub, if they're not talking about the football, they're talking about Harry. And just, you know, we don't want you here because it just causes too much fuss.
Harry arrived in Britain at almost the worst possible moment, and then each new development made the situation even harder. He came without Meghan. He lost the court case. He called the ruling a whitewash. The palace accommodation fell through. William remained just 12 miles away without meeting him. Reports claimed Charles had lost patience. The Sussex and Palace teams pushed competing versions of events through the media. And the serious public image Harry hoped to build disappeared beneath another avalanche of royal headlines. Now, one major question remains. Harry has already released a strongly worded statement. If he gives a longer interview and criticizes the palace, the press, or his father again, the tensions could grow even further. A public accusation aimed at Charles could make any remaining chance of a private meeting even more difficult. Fresh criticism of palace aides could leave many people wondering whether reconciliation was ever truly the priority. That is the decision now in front of him. Does Harry lower the tension, keep the spotlight on Invictus, and protect the final days of his visit? Or does he strike back publicly, blame those around him, and risk turning an already troubled comeback into an even bigger public setback? And what about Meghan? Does she stay in California while Harry faces every headline on his own? Does she arrive later as the supportive wife? Does she bring the children and create the emotional family moment King Charles has reportedly hoped for? Or would her arrival simply spark another flood of media coverage, fashion headlines, Princess Diana comparisons, and fresh speculation over whether this visit was always destined to become the biggest royal story of the week? Harry walked into London smiling, but the court had ruled against him. The palace was pushing back. William kept his distance. Reports said Charles was losing patience. The charities struggled to stay in the spotlight, and Meghan was nowhere beside him. That smile was meant to project confidence. Instead, it may end up becoming the lasting image of a prince watching his carefully planned UK comeback unravel right in front of him.